At the New Jersey SBDC Network, our mission is simple: to help businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in operation or just starting out, we have the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. My name is Priscilla Liebert-Calder. I am the event coordinator here at the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark. And on behalf of Dr. Tendai Ndora, our regional director, I would like to welcome you to our webinar on NJ state certifications and private contracting. For those who are with us today and you may not be familiar with the NJSBDC, the SBDC stands for Small Business Development Center. We are a resource center for the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and we provide business consulting and training services to small businesses here in New Jersey. We're one of 12 centers located in the NJSBDC network, each center being responsible for one or more county. We're responsible for businesses in Essex County. We are hosted by the Rutgers Business School, and we're funded through a private partnership agreement between the SBA, Rutgers University, and the New Jersey Business Action Center. So simply put, the objective of the SBDC is to provide one-on-one business consulting services at no cost to you. And we offer these services to individuals and small businesses here in New Jersey. So whether you need help or you need to speak with a consultant with an expertise, whether it's in general startup consulting, in digital marketing, in procurement, government contracting, in certifications, as we're going to discuss today, import, export, sales, intellectual property, getting your trademark, your copyrights, your patents, whether it's even, assisting you with putting together your business plan, accessing capital, what programs are available for small businesses, whether grants or loan programs, especially due to COVID. We have many consultants with expertise in one or more of these areas that are available and here to assist you. To take advantage of this service, you simply need to visit our website at www.rnsbdc.com. That's RN for Rutgers-Newark, SBDC.com. And in the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says Request Counseling. You're going to click on that button and complete the form. And within 24 to 48 hours, you are assigned a counselor with expertise in the area in which you requested assistance with. They'll reach out to you to make an appointment and to conduct your initial assessment or follow through with a counseling sessions. Counseling sessions usually last an hour or an hour and a half. And generally the way it works is once you've consulted with a consultant, they will give you recommendations that you must follow through before additional sessions can be given to you. Now, apart from the business counseling, we're also known for our training services, and these comes in the form of workshops and webinars such as the one that you're attending here today. So the Newark Center is known for our webinars and workshops. Last year we had 90 plus webinars, and this year we've added an additional 40 or 50. So it's quite a lot of webinars on various topics that can help you either start or grow your small business. And you are free to attend it. Almost 90% of our training events are free. And the others, which are usually our workshops, they're at a small nominal fee. Most have been discounted at 50% due to COVID. So it's a great time and a great opportunity for you to invest in yourself and your small business and get some of the skills that you need to help you start, grow, and scale your business. In terms of counseling, as I said earlier, we do assist those that are belonging to the Essex County area. You are free to attend our workshops and webinar no matter where in New Jersey you live. However, when it comes to the one-on-one business consulting, you must seek out the help of your local SBDC. So if you're outside of Essex County, I will still encourage you to visit our website and fill a request for counseling. However, but once we've detected that your address is outside of the county, we do transfer you to your local SBDC. All SBDC provides the same services. The only way sometimes we differ, sometimes depends on the training events, which you're free to attend no matter where in the state you reside, the events you can attend. The only exception to the counseling rule is if you attend one of our paid workshops, you are given post-workshop consultation from the presenter. And once that is done, we then transfer you back to your local SBDC. Okay, so I think that should cover, working with the SBDC. So moving on to today's workshop, today's webinar, NJ State Certification of Private Contracting, will be presented by Ginny Rock Bailey. I'll talk about her in just a few, but just for everyone's convenience today, we have disabled audio, so you can't ask questions, but you can use the chat. So please feel free to use the chat box and the Q&A feature here on Zoom, and we'll do our best to answer your questions as we go along. A copy of today's slides, along with the video recording of today's presentation, will be sent out within 48 to 72 hours of the end of the webinar. This webinar also is an overview of our full day workshop. So we do have a full day workshop that Julie will talk about, where we'll go through actually completing these certification forms. And we also have, joining us will be John Cronin, the certification auditor for the state of New Jersey. So that's the individual that denies or approves your application. And so he usually attends our presentation and brings some insight to the process, as well as the documentation that may be required for you to attain these certifications. So without further ado, I'm going to turn today's presentation over to Ginny. And I'll let Ginny tell you a little bit more about herself, besides the fact that she is a consultant here at the NJSBDC. So Ginny?
Thanks, Priscilla, and thank you so much for participating in this webinar today. Priscilla, I just want to enlighten you to something. I may need you to take over the screen. I haven't gotten an alert, but something popped up on mine, And we can continue if you take over, and I'll give you a warning, okay? So I am so glad that you're here to participate in this webinar. Again, it's on New Jersey State certifications in private contracting. My goal today is to just give you a snippet of what we covered during the workshop. This is the first webinar that I've held where a major change was made by the state. And that change is that they waived the application fee for every application regarding certifications and registrations in the state. And when I first heard about it through our auditor, I was like, this can't be good. I mean, if they're gonna let us do this for free, then there either has to be an end to it or that there's something else. So I did a little more digging and found out that the reason why, one of the main reasons why they waived the fee was because our businesses were having such a hard time during the pandemic. And there is a need for certified minority women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and service disabled veteran-owned businesses in the state. And I'm going to go through that in a little bit more detail with you. But like Priscilla said, during our workshop, and that's on August 22nd, you'll get an announcement to that. We go into completing the documents. And my goal at the workshop or at the end of the workshop is for every participant who's ready should be able to submit their application either online or a hard copy, because I sent some information out prior to the workshop. So what I wanted to do basically here was I want to discuss with you the types of programs that the state offers, what are some of the eligibility requirements, and also I wanted to make sure that I shared with you best practices when completing these applications. Now, the program will be divided up into two sections. Because the state allows contractors to submit hard copy applications, I always want to make sure that I cover the basis for the traditional hard copy applicant as well as the online applicant. And that's what I choose to do in this program. And I also think that for my clients, I ask them all to complete a hard copy application, even if they're going to apply online, to ensure that they're not going to miss anything, number one, miss anything in terms of codes, in terms of their organizational structure, the date they started their business, because the questions on the hard copy application are on the online application, but not in the same order. But I think it's important that you know that the applications, regardless of which program or process you choose, if you eliminate any information on the hard copy application, then they're not going to continue. It could be at the beginning of the program or at the end of the program. They're not going to continue. They'll send you an additional information letter. And if you don't reply in a certain number of days, you have to apply over again, and you may have to wait. So this is very serious. If you have the opportunity to come to the workshop, John will speak about how serious they are about these programs, because he and I both know how they've helped so many minority women-owned businesses and small businesses reach that next step. So I'm going to read through these and just give you a brief overview of what the eligibility requirements are. For all of these programs, a small business is determined as 100 employees or less. That's when you're a small business for the sake of these programs. For the small business enterprise, registration, not certification, because it's too broad, number one, in terms of the basic covers, it's national in scope, it's too broad, and it's one of 3 other registrations that don't require your finances as an eligibility requirement. What makes this SBE so popular, though, is it's the only program in the state that you can bid on. There's a 25% set aside program for minorities and women, depending on what you're bidding on, but there's a set aside. This is the only program in the state where there is a set aside for segmented market. And that's a big deal because 10, 15 years ago, our signature program, which is the second one, had a set aside for minority and women-owned businesses. And because of a lawsuit, proved that it basically discriminated against a population that's not included in this factor, our set aside was taken away. But trust me, there are firms out there now that are working on diversity studies that prove that these programs are viable, that we're competitive, and that there's a need. And I say this because so often when we complete an application, especially for minority businesses, and it asks for the statistics of the applicant in terms of gender and ethnicity, so many applicants say, I'm not filling this out. I don't fill these things out. But it's that kind of information that allows us to prove that we are servicing this population. So just a little hint and recommendation to please fill it out. If you complete, it's only on the SBE application. If you complete a small business enterprise application, I encourage you to fill that out, hard copy. The Minority Women-Owned Business program is our set-aside program. I'm going to go into these in a little bit more depth, but this program is, like I said, our signature program for the state. It also is the only program that requires its applicants to provide documents. You have to provide documents on your taxes, on your identification and gender. They ask for a lease. There's a whole list of documents that the state asks for. But best practices, when you're applying online, there's a little best practice on how you can find out what documents they're actually going to ask you for. But for those clients who wait and apply all at one time, I encourage them to have the appropriate documents for your organizational structure available. And I really do it for all of the clients, because I've had situations where clients didn't think that the state wanted their certificate of formation or their certificate of incorporation. And they get to the portal and find out that they want it. And the portal is not friendly. It's not friendly at all. Hard copy, you have to provide all the documents. The veteran-owned business registration is for that population, is for a veteran-owned business. They have to present a DD 214 to prove that they were discharged or had an honorable discharge. And the veteran the veteran can also apply to any of the other businesses. So often the veteran will apply for the BOB and a small business enterprise registration. They're both registrations and not certification because of the span of the business. The disabled veteran-owned business or service disabled owned veteran business, they have to submit a letter from veterans saying that they are disabled and what the percentage is. So these are the programs that the state offers. Now, I know some of you are familiar with some other programs that are in the state, but they're not New Jersey State programs. These are the New Jersey State programs. And if you're going to apply for another state, in so many instances, they want you to have your state certification first before you apply to another state. So this is why this certification is so important and so popular. So how to apply? On the traditional hard copy application, which the state has provided them, again, online. They were taken down, but our office has them. The traditional hard copy application requires, any of the hard copy applications require the same content information. They ask for your business, and if you're doing business as or trade name, they ask for the address, a mailing address, and the address that the business is registered to. You can have a separate address, but what drives these programs is the fact that your business address and the main documents for your business are have the same address. And that's why it's also important too, when it comes to re-verify, that if you move, it's incumbent upon you to let the state know. If you file online, you can just go through the portal. And I've also given you the URL in the chat, which I was going to save for the workshop, but why you should be able to have that link and go on and look to see what you need before you apply. The traditional application is really, it really operates as its name, a traditional hard copy application. It asks a lot of questions. Most of the questions that it asks are on the portal, as I said before. But if you fail to provide an answer that's requested or required of you, they're going to shoot the whole package back, and you have to start again. And it's not as if they're going to send it back to you overnight. They're going to send it back to you snail mail. So you only have 30 days to reply. So you want to make sure that you have your business documents together. I find that this is one of the best programs for my clients that allow them to know where all of their business documents are. Their business registration certificates, their certificate of formation, the statement from the Department of Treasury. So then when you need them, for other reasons, you have them all together. So the traditional application is something that, I'm not going to say a large percentage, because more applicants, more businesses are applying online, but there are a number of companies that still prefer to use the traditional hard copy application to submit their documents. And that's for a lot of reasons. Some is they don't have anyone to help them online, with applying online. There is still somewhat of distrust of sending in your personal documents to online, whether cybersecurity or whether you just think something might happen. But I'm glad that the state is maintaining this process, because it really allows everyone to participate. Because you can have some business owners who may not be familiar with working online, and they should not be stymied by applying because they may have some technical difficulties. So I was really glad to hear that the state was going to continue to do that. The benefits of, a hard copy application, again, is owner's confidence, overall preference, and you are allowed to give an expanded version of your story, and it can also be fast-tracked. So why I included that expanded version of the story, because online, you can only give 255 characters. And for business owners who want to talk about when it started and how it's grown and the joy it brings to my family, the online app is not the place for it. There are other documents that you can squeeze that information in online, but on the application itself, you can have this expanded version of your story. Now, what is a fast track? If a client comes to me and says, I need this certification because it's going to depend on whether I get this contract or not. And it happens more time than I ever realized before I started doing this work. So I can request a letter from the potential client, from the potential opportunity of the client, I will include it in the package and then I will track it. I'll let the auditor know that it's coming and that it should be fast track. I've approved the reason. And sometimes, and it depends a lot on the volume, but they're caught up now. But most of the time, that application can go to the top of the pile regarding the significance of the request. So I'm just working with a client now who came to me, cleaning company, great cleaning company. And he said, I really think I can get this business. I said, well, let's go for it. Let's get this fast track letter together. Just kind of, I'm not supposed to dive into all the details of the client, but I really like to look at it to make sure that it's got the pertinent information the client needs to satisfy the questions that the auditor may need. And a fast track can move your application anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. And I've seen it done based on the significance of the contract. I've seen the auditor do it in days because he is a champion of this program. He wants to see our businesses make money and grow. So the online uniform certification portal. Like I said, I gave you the portal, the URL, and it's really interesting because that application really gives you no wiggle room at all. You have to be ready with your information. You have to be in a position to respond to the questions. The online app is not forgiving. If you take too long, it bounces you out. And hopefully you saved everything because it's a process. You have to be on point when you complete this application. That's why I make the recommendation for the clients, especially those who are a little apprehensive of filling out an online application. Put all your information on the hard copy first. This way, as the question's answered, you have it right there. So it makes it a lot easier for you to keep the pace up of those questions on the online. It is more efficient because once you submit, you do get your SBE certificate right away if you answer the questions correctly. And it will allow the system to review your application a lot quicker if you do a hard copy, but it's definitely a preference. It's not mandatory, it's definitely a preference. I know this so much that I just want to make sure that I don't get that far ahead of you, but the online application has become very, it's become very popular. And when you think of the hard copy application, you think, if you've seen one, it has contact information, which is the same everywhere. It asks specific questions when it comes to the small business enterprise registration. That's the only application that will ask for NAICE codes. And they're the national codes that, I want to give you the exact title for them. They're the North American Industrial Codes, and they used to be SIC codes. You might see them online as SIC codes, but our application is asking for the NICS codes. And what's very interesting about this is that if you, when it's time for you to start to gather your codes, you will look at the bottom of the page and you'll see that it's updated regularly. So what that really means is if you complete the application, you get to your codes and you sit on the applications for 3 months, some of those codes may not be there. So I always recommend to the clients to have more codes that are required. For an SBE, you're not required to have 12 codes or 6 codes. But I think if you want to be competitive, you should give the number of codes the state allows you to have for just for instance, for the NAIC codes. I've noticed that those codes have been updated more within the last 7 months than during the time that I've been doing it. And it says a lot. It says a lot about the emphasis that's placed on that particular registration, and it correlates for me to the number of clients I have that are actually bidding on contracts through SBE. So it's not like it's going unnoticed. But in order to make sure that you have the right NAIC codes, or any codes really, you should identify the codes similar to the words that you use to build your website. You should look at action words that describe your business. So there are some industries like construction where there are general codes that you can just use, and that's a separate document that you have to get those codes from. But when you go online for NAICS codes, for instance, and you're a construction business, you can find more codes because of the nature of the industry. But if you're a massage therapist, or you're in nutrition or social services, you have to be more creative when you think about the codes that you want. And I also recommend that as you collect these codes, you save them in a file, because some of my clients have used the information that's in the codes to market their business. So there could be a dual usage of these codes, because they actually represent what you're doing, that they should represent what you're doing. And when I see, I saw a code recently, and it was about mortuary. And the client was not in the mortuary crematorium business. And I was like, do you really think you want to use their code? But because some other things about the description allowed them to believe that this might be a good code for them, clearly after we had a discussion, they saw that it wasn't. Because you're not going to find that many codes for that. Where in their business, there were more codes than what they had identified. So we're talking about thousands of codes here. Not that you have to look through all of them, but this should be a planned exercise when you complete these applications. You shouldn't just say, okay, I'm just going to do my SBE and my certifications tonight. It should be planned, because this is very serious. The completion, the successful completion of these applications allow you to be seen by contractors who are looking to do business with vendors that are using their same codes. So when I started to think about that for my own business, I realized that it was more important for me to take the time, and this is what I tell my clients, take the time to go through these codes, and don't sit on them, because it's laborious if you don't do them. For my clients, I will spend the time to go to start them on how to look for the appropriate codes for them. And that's why this online application is called Uniform, because it speaks to every one of those programs that the state offers, but you don't have to apply for all of them. The application is general in nature, but it doesn't delve, because there's not that much time, but you have to have what they want and what they're looking for. And in some instances, you can't move forward. Okay, so that's important. Again, the benefits of an online application: there are fewer documents to submit, there's a faster turnaround, less time to complete, and also it can be fast tracked. Fewer documents to submit. A best practice for you. You can follow the link that I've given you in the chat. Start your online application. Make sure that you have your EIN number, you have the correct spelling of the company name, the correct spelling of your name. Make sure that you have, and I said your name because sometimes in our haste, we don't put the correct, we miss some letters or just misspell real pertinent information about ourselves. And if you're accepted because of the data that you applied, and so often there's a concern about your EIN number, you'll find out then, and that will give you the opportunity to find out where the problem is. So in my experience, the problems when you can't get past the first 2 or 3 panels, which is the contact information, when you can't get to that panel that says, congratulations, you can apply. Reasons on a state level are usually your annual reports have not been kept up to date, or your business wasn't registered to its entirety. These are the 2 main reasons that I found my clients have had a problem. And you can contact the state, and it takes a while, so be patient to stay online. They're very helpful because a lot of them are still working at home as well. You can contact the state and you can tell them what the problem is. And most of the time, it's either the annual report or it's either your business wasn't registered to the fullest extent. And so often the section on the NJ reg that you register your business in, the section regarding the federal taxes or state taxes was not complete. And I have found this to be the case when many of my businesses, and I'm not downing them, not the businesses, but the vendors, many of my businesses who have used a third party to register their business have run into this problem. So if you're out there and you had a third party look at, register your business, this is an opportunity for you to test the system to make sure that the documents that are required on a state level are good and you can go forward. Because there is nothing more frustrating for you to have all of your other documents together and find out that the challenge has to do with the status of your business in the state. While I'm on this point, let me recommend an app for you. It's called Gov2Go, G-O-V, number 2, go. That app, at this moment, you can get other information about your business, but it is a reminder of when your annual reports are due. And to fall back on your own annual reports is to not be able to participate in these programs. And it's really interesting because I've noticed that vendors, that clients who were successful in PPP and EIDL, they were able to get through this because that information is on a federal level. When it came to complete the application on a state level, we were stopped. I can't even tell you how finding out that your business may not be as in a good status as you think it is, finding this out now can help you down the road, because I've never heard of a client that said they got an email saying that their annual report hadn't been received. But when it came time to submit their application, not only did they stop us, but we found out, and this is in more than one case, that the business had been revoked from the state because it hadn't paid its annual report, paid for its annual report. And at this point, that's the only report that I would need for this that's on that app. I had suggested they put the verifications on there as well, because that's a problem for a lot of our businesses, to re-verify each year that there's been no change or there has been a change. If there has been a change, instead of going through the portal or contacting them through mail, the auditor wants you to call them and say, I've had a change in the services that I deliver, so I needed to change my codes, my NIGP codes. I am not doing that anymore. I am not doing this service anymore. Like with general contractors, I'm not carting debris, I'm washing windows. You want to make sure that that's included, that's updated in your application. Now it's beyond an application, your portfolio, so that vendors that are looking for you will see that, oh, now she's doing this. I need this. I thought she was great before, but now she's even better, especially if you're extending this. So another really good a good best practice for you is that every business that is certified and registered in the state of New Jersey is included in a document called New NJ Savvy, which is a marketing directory for all of the businesses. And it's not that you have to have all of the certifications or the registrations. You can just apply for one and be in that directory. And I know that companies have gone online outside of the state, especially with so much business going on now, and they found New Jersey-based businesses to work with, to subcontract with through NJ Savvy. So after you're certified, you want to make sure that the NJ Savvy directory is up to date with your information. Also, once you get your certificate, regardless of which one it is, because at this point, I'm seeing the SBE as relevant as the MWBE, WBE, or MBE. What I encourage my clients to do is make sure that they have a copy of the actual certificate in a file on their phone, because so often you're asked, are you MBE certified? Are you? So to confirm it, you can just show it to them. And anything that's going to give you a competitive edge over somebody else that's doing what you're doing, you want to be in a position to have it. And I will, if I'm doing the online application, I will just forward the certification to them. You have to wait for the MWBE because there's more that they have to look at. But for the SBE, you can get it right away if all of the information I shared with you is in order. And since the SBE is not driven by revenue, and there's a space on the application that asks for your taxes, you can put a number in there. Make up a number. Put $100 in there for the 3 years or 2 years or 1 year that you've been in business. Because if you don't, the online application won't move. They haven't figured out a way yet to separate that part of the SBE requirements. So I put the actual revenue for the years, or I will just include $100 for the client to move it. But again, you want to make sure that in order for you to get through this process, that you have a really succinct description of your business within the 255 characters, because it won't allow you to move. And what happens is the client is up there trying to take out information and save it in a Word doc and come back and put it in, and then you can time out. You really have to learn how to keep that window open so you can go back into your application window and say, no, I'm still on. Don't jump me off while you're taking care of some of the things that you're missing. So again, it's fewer documents to submit. If you start now and create your username and password, if you don't have a My New Jersey account, and start the process and get to the point where you can apply, and you apply for your SBE or MBE or MWBE, there'll be a drop-down menu which will tell you how many documents that you will need to update. What the system doesn't tell you that the online does is that the hard copy does. On a hard copy application, the last page for an SBE is the verification form. So for corporations, the titles are president or CEO. For LLCs or LLPs, it's a managing member or a managing partner. For a sole proprietor, it's an owner. Those are the only titles that the state accepts. So on a hard copy application, you're left to give your title as goddess if you want, and they may take it. I'm not going to say they'll take it, but you can submit the application. I'm telling you that those are the only three, for those three organizational structures, they will take president, CEO for corporations, managing member or managing partner for an LLC or an LLP, and owner for a sole proprietor. Those are the organization structures. And if you're a sole proprietor, you can apply to any program. It doesn't matter. Sole proprietors require the least number of documents because of the nature of your business, how you describe the business. LLCs, the second least. LLPs require a little bit more because you have to have a partnership or an operational agreement. And I tell my clients to treat that agreement as if it was a will that you have between you and your partner. So it clearly delineates who does what. And for a corporation, they want all their documents. I don't provide bylaws for a corporation because they're mainly attached to an LLC, but I want to see your articles of incorporation. There was a time when they were looking for stock ledgers and stock certificates. So if the business had started, if the owner had started the business on its own, they didn't have any of that. They didn't have a ledger and stock certificates. And they really, a lot of them don't know that they have stock. It's on your certificate of incorporation. So let me back up for another best practice for you. On your certificate of formation or incorporation, make sure that your registering agent, and I want to watch my time because I can talk to you guys forever. Make sure that your registering agent is either yourself or someone that you trust and you can have a long-standing relationship with. Why? So often the registering agent is the person or the address that's getting your information. And I know of instances where my clients trusted this registered agent and their tax information was going to the registered agent and they never got it. I mean, you can be behind, but you don't want to be way behind. And they were way behind and it took so long for them to catch up. So make sure that, that you are comfortable with the registering agent. Secondly, if you're a corporation, make sure that you see the number of stock that you have in the corporation. It's up to you to set the price, but you should know that you have stock in the corporation. It could be 100 shares, it could be 5 shares, it could be 10 shares. That's up to you, but make sure that you know that you have them. Because in further applications, they're going to ask. And it's, I haven't seen it to be a big penalty if you don't declare it because they've got your certificate of incorporation and they know that many businesses aren't even thinking about that. We want to start working. We're not thinking about all those things, but it's really important for you to know your business and you can do it in those documents. So I've given you some best practice tips on NJ Savvy, and I kind of wrote some down because they're all coming up, on the challenges that we have when we're applying for these certifications and we realize that we don't have all of our documents. And it's so important, if you're going to keep your documents at home, keep them in something that won't burn. It's great to get a safe deposit box at your bank. And now on the other hand, last year, when banks were down, it was difficult for the clients to get some of the information that they needed, but it wasn't impossible. What I'm suggesting is that in order for you to feel comfortable where your documents are, they should be in a place where you have easy access to them. And some create files on their systems, especially your certification files. They keep a lot of their documents in there or in business files because you want to make sure that you have easy access to them. I'm just thinking about your codes. For your NAIC codes, I told you that that's the North American Industrial Codes and they're national. If you don't apply for an SBE registration, you will not need those codes. It's the construction and the NIGP codes, which are the National Institute of Government Purchasing. That's where the NIGP comes in, but they're the non-construction and commodity. You'll see more codes in there than you will. I want to say you'll see more codes in there than national, but no, they'll be equal, but you will not see the same codes in NAIC that you see in NIGP. I know this is just alphabet soup, but you won't see the same codes. But what's really important, that the NAIC application requires 6 digits. Construction and NIGP require 5. So on the online application, it's a drop-down menu when you start to give them the code. You input the code. It's a drop-down menu. It's what you want to, bloop, it goes up. On the hard copy application, where we see the most problems is with the federal employer identification number, because once people put their dash in, 731 dash, there for some reason they don't count it out, and there's only 8 numbers and not 9. So I tell everyone, if you're doing a hard copy application, don't include the hyphen. Just put the 9 numbers in, because I don't know what happens, but we see that the box is filled and we think the 9 codes are in, and they're not. And they will send the application. They won't send the application back. They'll provide you with an additional information, email or letter. Also, if you're an LLC or an LLP or a corporation, there's no need for you to give your social security number. You only give your social security number when you're a sole proprietor, because you can work under your 1040. What the online application is asking for, and this I think is new, but what they're asking for LLCs and LLPs are the Schedule Cs only. And it's right in the description. They're asking for a Schedule C. And I really want to look at all the documents before my clients submit them, just to make sure that they're right, because I have a really good track record of getting these certifications. So I guess the Taurus in me is saying, no, they have to be right because you have to get it. But I want to make sure that not only is the information correct on a hard copy application especially, but that you respect the reader on a hard copy who's looking at your hard copy application. I'm basically saying, if you're not a good writer, don't you complete the application. Have somebody else complete the application, because they're not going to take the time to try and figure out what you're trying to say or what the codes are. Just take your time and complete it as if it was going to be given to you. So that's another best practice, because I know they'll send them out. They'll send them back. And when they're returned, of course, your AI letter is going to take longer to get to you, but you have to get it back in 30 days. And I want to say after the date on the letter, but as soon as you get the letter, start to work on what the challenges are that were presented. And if you see that you're not going to make the 30 days, call them and let them know, because they're on a time schedule, because they have so many applications. So if you're a week out, they may say, okay, fine. But at 2 weeks, a month, they've taken you out of the system. So you don't want to be in that kind of position. And these are just tips that I know assist the businesses in thinking about how I have to get this certification and why I need it. So I can't mess up. I cannot get to the point where I've submitted it. They ask for some more information. And sometimes it's just clarity on what you do. Because if the narrative doesn't support the resume, and that's another big document that they spend a lot of time looking at. But if it doesn't support the resume, and then they look at the time you were in business and look at your past experience, it just begs more questions than are required. I'm not saying that there's an assumption made that if everything is correct up to questions 1 through 6, then don't look at 7, 8, 9. I'm not saying that, but there is a respect to the online applicant when everything is in order. So you want to make sure that you have your documents ready for them. Okay. Another item on another item that addresses the whole issue of codes. Applications are sent back if there is not one code in each request. So that's the NAIC, the construction, and the NIGP codes. So what's hard to find are the construction codes. But for those businesses out there that are not in a construction related field, this is a code for you. It's C for construction 02050. In the construction pamphlet, that code reflects communication. And it's really up to you, the business owner, on how you would render that. No one's ever been asked that question. But in the absence of leaving it blank, the state has given you the opportunity to use that code. To leave it blank is to have the document returned. And you don't want to be about that. You don't want to have that happen. I am just going on. I'm not even looking at questions. But so the general tips are to confirm that your company is registered. And all of you who are interested in not just registered, but registered in good standing. All of you that are on the webinar today have the opportunity to do that by using that link I put in the chat room. So what's also very interesting, and that's why I put confirm the official name of the company, is that so often the business will use their DBA that's not registered as the name of the company. So you search the company by the DBA and it doesn't show up. So on this application, they're asking for the official name of the company. When you go online for, I want to say for this application, but when you start to look at, if you have a problem, when you start to look at in the Division of Treasury and Revenue, you look up your company. So often they're giving it to you, not spelled differently, but with different fonts. So it's always my recommendation to the client to always use the same fonts. If your company mine is Rock Bailey Enterprises, it's capital letters only. It's capital R, capital B, capital E. I write everything that way when it comes to applying. If your business is in all caps, use all caps when applying. Because I have a situation where there is a business there are businesses on the same street who are virtually using the same name. I don't get into why, I'm just looking at my business. And the difference is my clients' names are all in caps, then it's also incorporated. But see how quick it is to miss that. And there's a lot of upfront research you can do on your business if there is a problem. But the system, once you reach a challenge, and the error message is the name of the business and the federal employer identification number don't match. But that doesn't mean it's a federal problem. They're just saying it doesn't match, because you can have a business registration certificate, which is a BRC, which we should have, and it will have the correct spelling of your business, and it will also have your New Jersey identity number. So you want to keep both of those in case you forget your EIN number, because it's not on the BRC, and you can search your business with your NJ identity number. If you're applying for the MWBE or MBE, a major registration, you have to declare whether you're part of a business, whether you've ever been a part of a business, even if it's inactive, you have to declare it. Because, and this hasn't happened, but the thinking is, if you're a managing member and you own 100% of the business, how can you be an active participant in this business and an active participant in another business of which you're saying you own 100%? Now, I haven't had a business challenged nor stopped because they were involved in another business. But what we were able to do was identify the percentages. If you're 50-50 in a business or 51-49% in a business, then that other percentage could be applied to that other business, especially if it complements the business that you're certifying. So to not identify that is to falsify the application, because once they put your federal employer identification number or social security number in, it's like brings up your whole life story. So I'd rather be on the other end of that, so that you would not be in a position where you'd have to explain why you didn't mention it. Also, what the online and hard copy share is the fact that it asks you for the names and everything is home address. It doesn't ask you for the home address online. It just asks you for the names of people that are invested in your business, whether it's it asks financially and just invested. And usually if it's a partnership and they've been in business for a while, they give the name, they give their home address, and they also give their title, which is managing member or managing partner. It gets a little different when it's a corporation, because there could be a number of people involved, but you have to list everyone. And usually it's the officers of that corporation. And then the second question that's asked on both applications is, what was they're not asking it this way, but this is what they want. What was the initial investment that you made in the business when it started? So there was a time when they asked for an example, like I had to give a canceled check when I started my business. But now it's more, I'm not going to say it's on good faith, because if you're submitting your taxes and you started your business within a 3-year period, and I'm going to get on another tax question too, they look for that. They look for information to see, okay, this was to start the business. They could possibly have started the business with this amount. But what I tell my clients is it could be anywhere from $200 to $10,000. But after I go over the documents, because I also ask them to provide a profit and loss just in case, if I go over the profit and loss statement and see that the numbers aren't right, we have to rethink some of these numbers. And I have to delve back into what were you doing when you started the business. But you have to declare them. How much money was put into the business? And if you're the only applicant, you still have to answer that question. So my recommendation is to have that answer be reasonable. Have it be reasonable, because that could be the reason that you're denied, because it's unreasonable. So just be reasonable, because the state's not asking for documentation. It's asking for information. And they ask that in 2 separate sections of the On Portal app. Now in the hard copy, you're filling out the form, because I arrange the documents so that they're in order of question 9. So you're filling out the appropriate documents and you're giving the name and address and the amount of money that the person had invested, that both of you had invested. So on taxes, if you have not been in business for more than 3 years, you can't give any taxes. You don't have it. But if you started your business, let's say the fourth quarter of 2020, and you did not make enough money to file taxes, what the state will allow you to do is to have an accountant, and I've done it for my clients as well, write a letter to the state auditor and say, this is what they made, they weren't eligible, they weren't required to file taxes based on this. If you've been in business for 2 years, submit the 2-year taxes or submit the Schedule C for those 2 years. If you're an LLC or P. If you're a corporation, you've got to submit both. You submit your state and your federal taxes, and they go through it. So many questions are, do I have to be in business for 3 years to apply? No. And the state was smart on changing that, because years ago, you had to be in business for 3 years, but they were smart because they were seeing the economic, the revenue generated by these small businesses to the state. They were seeing it. So they said, why wait? Let's just capture that information right now. So there's no length of time in business required. The requirements are that you meet the small business regulations in terms of number of employees, and that you're a registered business in the state of New Jersey in good standing. And then for the certification program, the documents that are requested. And I always think that it's good to organize your documents, hard copy prior to submission, and make sure that if you're online and you get to the point now you don't have to pay, which is, I did an application the other night, it was so great. Once you get to, and I copied this, it's called, it's the Uniform Certification Services Summary. And that's a summary of all the information that you included on your application. Make a copy of it. Save it as a PDF, because you're going to need that again. So instead of going back into the portal to get it, you'll already have a copy of it. So make a copy of it, and you'll have to attest at the end that all of this information that you submitted basically was truthful to the best of your knowledge. But when you start your application, you also have to have a notarized attestation statement, which basically says all the information that's included in this application process. I'm just giving you some language, but this is the intent, is prepared true to the best of my knowledge. You have it signed and you get it notarized, and then you upload it, because that's the first request that they ask for, is that attestation statement. Conduct a how do I ID your code conversation. I mean, the codes are, and it's really identifier codes. The codes are really time consuming because you can be overwhelmed. That's why I ask the clients to start to think of them in terms of action words, wellness, healthcare, lawn care, whatever your industry is, start to use the action word before you start to play around with the codes, because that can be very frustrating. And also, when you're online getting the codes, there is a drop-down menu in the center of the page which says, we found 10 codes, 2 codes, 0 codes, or 200 codes. You want to make sure you go to the, not the far right scroll down, but the one right that's almost in the center of the page. So you get to look at as many codes as you think is relevant to what your business is. You want to be in a position where you can supply the 12 codes that reflect the services that you deliver. I also suggest that instead of 12 codes, have 14 codes. Because as I said earlier, the codes change. And an application that I was just doing, we thought that, I knew the code was there, but once we went to upload it, it wasn't. I don't ask where it goes. I just have another code for the client. And you should have extra codes too. And the codes are also good. And this complements this program, but the codes are also good when you produce a capability statement, which is a wonderful glorified business card that you put on nice stock or interesting stock that you give to potential clients or at network events so they can see the breadth of your business. So you include most clients include the NAIC codes. I suggest that especially if it's a local networking event, to include your NIGP codes too, your NIGP codes. That gives them an idea of how your business can align with what they're looking for. On a hard copy side, review your application. Have somebody else double check the application to make sure that you've provided the information that the state's looking for. Again, best practice is to use a hard copy application to guide you, even if you're doing it online. You have to convert all your documents to a PDF or a JPEG. So if you're going to upload a driver's license that will satisfy gender and ethnicity, make sure it's a clear copy, because if it's a copy that's been smeared over, they're not going to take it because they can't really tell who you are. So you want to make sure that you do that. Another best practice is on the hard copy application. There is an option for other. And so a lot of people think, not a lot of people, but many business owners, applicants think that that's other for ethnicity. It isn't. Why it's there, I don't know. Don't check other. It's African American, it's African, Black American, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander. And there are some applicants who are from Egypt or parts of the Middle East that are not eligible. And that's not because we don't want you to be eligible. It's because of the state laws. And I'm sure on this side, on this point, it would be for the federal laws. And I know that sometimes it's difficult, especially if they've identified as either American Black or an African American, to be denied the program is hurtful for some, but there's no gender or ethnicity attached to the small business enterprise registration. And always have additional codes. I gotta hit myself there. Again, review your application carefully, make a copy of everything and save and print. I recommend that for those of you who are going to complete a hard copy application, you have a better chance of being seen right away. And right away is relative if you submit that application overnight and you send it to this address and you send it to the attention of John. And my client, I know it's coming. He's only in the office 1 day a week. So that day I ask him, did you see, like I have a client that submitted an application and he's going to be there tomorrow. So I'll be calling him and saying, did you get that hard copy application from whoever? And it's whether it's their secret or not, I know it. You're on this webinar. I feel, especially since time is of the essence for so many businesses, they can use these certification for leverage or for an actual increase in revenue. I want you to be competitive. So this is a good way for them to, for the auditor or his direct report to see your package. And if you're going to take the time and budget the money, because it's a little bit more, you want to make sure that the content is factual, at least to the best of your ability. You want to make sure it's factual. So let me see if I see if I can get a question. Doesn't work. Can the MBE be filled out online as well? I might have missed. Yes, it can. There. What's interesting? What's interesting? And for the person who says I didn't see a link, I will send it again. I mean, if you don't see a link, I will send it. What's interesting about the portal is that once you pass all the contact business information, you get to a frame that says, congratulations, you are now eligible to apply. And what happens is there are options. There's SBE, DOBOB, DBOB. No, there are all these options. But what becomes confusing is because you can apply as an MBE, so there is a check for that. You can apply for as a WBE, a Woman Business Enterprise, there's a check for that. And then you can apply for an MWBE. So invariably people kind of get confused and they check for all of them. Or they check for those that they feel are appropriate. That's why it's best to go through, and I know I'm going on and on about your question, but that's why it's best to have that hard copy application there. Everybody doesn't need it, but you'll see it will ask on the hard copy, are you an MBE? Are you a WBE? Those, and if you're both, you check both boxes. Okay. Are there any other questions? So what do I do? I own we're not allowed to put all of our information up anymore, but I own a human resources and consulting firm, and my DBA is really the certifications. I'm an HR firm for small companies. I'll make sure that they hire appropriately and legally. We do their onboarding. We really act as an offsite HR department for small companies. An opportunity presented itself where this office needed someone to do the certifications. And I love paper. So this was ideal for me when we were just doing the traditional applications. And it's ideal for me now. It's ideal because I am passionate about seeing our businesses, all businesses who participate, be competitive. And I've seen where two businesses or more did not have a certification. And the prime was definitely looking for a company that had a certificate that had all the bells and whistles, but was also certified. And that person was selected. That's not to say that the others weren't as good as or better than. They had the certification. And so what we're in the process of doing in terms of my firm, and we offer something like this at the center, is I'm interested in tracking my clients to the point where they realize the opportunities of these certifications because they're there. And if people aren't, if you're networking and someone isn't bringing it up, because for some reason, some businesses are a little shy to mention it, you bring it up, put it on your, definitely put your certifications on your webpage and on your capability statement. Make sure that the logo of the institution that provided you with the certification, whether it's a DBE or DOT or Port Authority or there's a whole host of them. Put put their logo on your webpage. So one final little caveat for those who are certified. My recommendation is for you to have a plan. Start before you're certified. Start while you're working on the application and you submit it. And that plan should be for you to think of municipalities and companies in a catchment area that you want to do business with in the state of New Jersey, whether it's the municipality or a city or the county. For Newark, it's the county. For Essex County, it's Essex County, Newark, and you can do a variety of other businesses in the county. Go on their webpage and upload your certification, because so often counties, more municipalities are saying we can't find qualified businesses. Well, to a certain extent, they're right, but they're also not spreading their web wide enough. But in order for you to be seen, look at the counties that are doing a lot of business, especially those counties that are going to be along the corridor of our major highways and state highways, with the airport doing its renovation. Look at those companies that there. Do a survey in a geographic area of companies that you would like to do business with and upload your certification. And you search that by, in the search box, it could be supplier diversity, that's a buzzword. It could be doing business with, and then it'll give you a list of people. It could be a number, like with your codes, action words that the municipalities use, but don't get the certification and just be happy you got it. Do something with it. And I feel confident that if you're astute enough to market your business, then market your certification along with it. Like Priscilla said, we have great consultants at the Newark SBDC. I'm honored to be a part of them. And we have workshops on topics that are relevant to your business. And you don't have to be in Essex County to attend. You have to be a resident of Essex County to participate to the extent that we would like to participate with you. But it's from a procurement standpoint, we're just putting your tip in the water on procurement. Upload your certifications and follow up. Montclair is doing a lot of business. East Orange is doing a lot of business. And I know that there are some cities that are really interested in the NJ Start application. So you may want to look at NJ Start, and you can Google all of this and upload their application. And then if you're thinking bigger than all of this, start your SAMS application. That's when you're starting to look outside of the state. This is just a state webinar, so I can't to go that much into the opportunities, but this is a wonderful stepping stone for you to soar. You can have your certification and grow with an organization. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. I'll check to see if there's any more questions. If not, what are you charged for playing? Well, if you're in, I can only, in terms of fees, if you work with us, obviously, in with Rutgers-Newark SBDC, our fees are free. And what is so cool about my area and my director is because sometimes it takes our businesses, and I'm not targeting all businesses, but some businesses are just savvy to the industry of running a business. So it may take you longer. I'm with you the long haul, because I know that through motivation and not nagging, they know I don't nag, but I know that I can convince you to go through the process and do it. So our fees are free. And I usually start out with about 5 hours because I think sometimes it may be worth that. But for other clients, we've gone longer because the dots did not connect. And I can't force you to not submit your application, but I can strongly encourage you to wait. Because number one, you don't want to be denied. That's not even part of anything I breathe. If I think you're going to be denied because we can't get the taxes, because of whatever reason you may be denied, I will ask you to ask the state to pull your application and we can start all over again. We want to pull it and then just go back in when you have all the documents that you needed. Because when you go back to apply, and I think they've got to fix this online, it'll ask you if you've ever been denied. And people are honest, yes, I've been denied, but I'm good now. And then it kicks you out of the system. And it's, I really don't like how it makes my clients feel. So I would just rather suggest that we take our time and get all of our documents together. And I can be reached through the SBDC, and I think Priscilla can confirm this. But yeah, I have consultation time with everyone who wants it that's been on this webinar. And I suggest that those that aren't in Essex County have all your questions ready. So we can just go through them, and we do them by Zoom. I haven't been meeting clients, but I'm just this passionate because I know what it can do for your business. So is there any other question? Because let me go back. This is where we can be contacted. We're not back at this office yet. We're still doing everything by Zoom. And we also have a satellite office at Seton Hall where we've met clients, but this is how you can reach us. And Priscilla told you can go online to our website and request consultation. And if you're requesting with me or any of the consultants, we will get to you as soon as we can. And we'll look at the status of your business and help you apply for certification. So I thank you so much for being with us. I also want to give a plug. I think I'm looking here at 1 minute. I want to give a plug to the workshop on the 22nd of August, because as I said, my goal is for those participants to leave with not 100% of their application done. Some have left with submitting their application because they started before they got to the workshop, but you leave with a large portion of your application. And it's about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours that we're together. Get a break, but it's about 4 or 5 hours and it's intensive. So you'll probably get an announcement about that, but that's the next time. And I'm not sure, maybe the last workshop of the year, but that's the next time that we will be doing something on certification. So again, I thank you so much for participating. You can see that I'm more than just doing these applications. I'm really passionate about it. And again, if you'd like to have a consultation with me, please fill out the request and I'll see you then. Have a great day.